A very good morning and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first day of the training. All right, I think we have waited for a few minutes so we can get started. So I hope most of you were there in yesterday's session, which is a demo session giving an introduction. And I mean, we have been through so what we are actually going to learn in this particular training, right? Cool. So if you are new or maybe just starting today also, I would suggest you to go through that recording so that you'll be able to catch it up, by the way. All right. Let's get it started. So what we discussed yesterday, right? So what we discussed, so there is a market, correct? There's a market which is giving us a job. Okay. Which is the market giving us a job? So there is something we talked about, SDLC. Okay. SDLC. And in the SDLC, by the way, so there are different types of SDLCs can have, right? So that's what we talked about. So we will be having something like, we are dealing with web applications. Web applications. Okay, this is what we talked about, right? And in the web applications, you have an so development and different teams, by the way. So you are actually the engineering team. So you're the engineering team for the same thing. So until here we discussed, and so this is where your role is evolved. And the roles and responsibilities, we actually kept it in 4 parts. So structure. So managing the infrastructure is what we have kept, or I have kept it there. So 4 things. And then there's the next thing, which is CI/CD is another thing. And it's the one. And then the next one is, since it is a DevSecOps, by the way, so here we're talking about DevSecOps, right? So since it is DevSecOps, so we may be getting into security aspects as well. And the last but not least, which is the automation. Right? So here is where you're having 4 roles is what I told. Okay. Done. So what is the next thing which we, so we have here is, now these guys actually, so the web applications. So now the web applications should be hosted in some place, correct? So the web application is hosted in some place, which is some servers, correct? Right. So this web application to be hosted in some place. and that is servers. Okay, you are going to host this inside the servers. Now the web applications is hosted in the servers. Your roles and responsibility is eventually, maintaining the infrastructure. So that means maintaining the server. Okay, and the CI/CD, that means application release. Okay, app release and all you will do. Okay, now where do you do the release of the software? So which is inside the application again. So here is the one, correct? And then after that, what do you have? So you have security, and security also, you're dealing with the server security only, like app security, right? So that is also ultimately points to the server. And automation, so whatever we do is generally, by the way, the automation, and the automation is also so that to be performed on the server only. The automation will be performed, plus by the way, but you can just keep it like, so server. Now everything, so whatever you do, by the way, is pointing to some place, and that is a server. Everything is pointing to one centralized place, one big thing. Okay, web applications. Now let's say I'm accessing this Miro.com. This Miro.com should have been hosted in some place. Okay, and that place is from that place we're accessing this, by the way. So now that means some people actually managing that server, releasing some changes to the Miro.com, right? And so ensuring the security of it, like no attacks happens and all. Okay, so and also they try to do most of the things, like all these particular things, in an automated manner, not the manual way. Okay, so just because, so automation can scale, whereas the manual things can't scale. So that's the reason. Yeah. Now everything so would be pointing towards servers to us, and these servers, okay, we will be understanding. We'll spend few more minutes about the servers, and I'll take up any questions if you have. So now these servers, okay, is what we are talking about, is big servers, right? So generally the servers are generally going to be big. Now you take any server, okay, will be hosted in some data center. So there is a place where you keep your servers, and that place is called as a data center. Okay. And inside the data center, you can see all these are racks. Okay. And inside this typical diagram, to understand, inside this rack, they are going to, plug in some servers. They'll put some servers. Okay. And that becomes a rack server. Rack server. So for an example, there is a well-known company called as Dell. They produce rack servers, just as an example. Then you click on this. Now you get the rack servers, by the way. So you can see this. And so if you get into the pricing of this particular one, so they're giving you this price, and the cost is, okay, this is the cost, and also what you are getting, by the way. So you're getting some Xeon processor, okay, and then you're going to get some sort of a memory. All right, so you're getting some 16 gigs, by the way. So 116 gig is what is being given, something like that. So these are all customizable. Okay, depends upon the requirement, we'll buy it. No, I want 32 GB DIMMs. I want one, each DIMM is a 32 GB. Let's say if you say, so I want some like this, 6 DIMMs I want. That means 6 RAMs I would like to keep it. So then the price is ultimately changing. So you see this, the price quotation changed to double the size. The more RAM, and hardly we got it, how much? Like, so 6 into 32. Okay, hardly 180 GB RAM I got it, right? Okay, no need to calculate it. Just 30s I can calculate, right? So that's okay. Now this all customizable, by the way. So you just understand these all big servers. Okay, big capacity, right? So it's also a server. Same like your laptop only, but that's a server having higher capacities. That's it. Okay. So now these servers are this data center. It runs in a data center. Now these servers also runs an operating system. correct? Okay. So now if I give famous server, or you can go like this, list of operating systems. Let's go for Wikipedia data. Okay, list of operating systems. You will you will be having like this. I don't want like this. Operating system. Operating system usage. There is one more Wikipedia page. Usage of operating system. If I go inside this, you'll get a different operating system usages, by the way. So the worldwide shipments, Android is highly used, no doubt in that. And there's also a bit old data only, like, so some 2016 data it is. So that's okay. So now the next is you go for a desktops, by the way. So where the Windows is leading, like where the web clients run more, which is Android, it is telling, and wherever it is desktop and laptop computers runs majorly with okay, desktop and laptop computers runs majorly with Windows. No question in that. Now, finally, I'll come to the big computers. Okay, so then you will see the trend of the big computers, by the way. So which uh, is it was Unix and moved everything to Linux. And whereas Windows and all, their prominence is very less in the big machines generally. Okay, to keep it generalized, right? So that's where okay. So I mean, this is very general data, by the way. So you can just considering like fastest supercomputers. This is the data. I mean, just replicating that to the server side also. Okay. So then, okay, you can also keep like, so widely used server operating system. Okay. So then generally the answer you get it is Linux distributions and Windows only, right? So today's world. But inside that Windows, I mean, whether it is Linux or Windows, it's mostly will be Linux. Windows prominence in the server world is very less. Okay. So that's where uh, with Azure cloud and all, there is little number you can consider. Okay, very small number, not even cross one digit also. I don't think so. The numbers are little dry to get it because no one shares exactly the numbers or someone has to collect it. So that's the problem. But generally you go into the servers, it's all server side is Linux operating system. And here it actually falls to the Linux. So now the servers actually runs majorly with the Linux OS. Okay. So that's where our syllabus also, if you look in, and I'll share you this link actually by end of the day or after this session. We'll share this link. I'll put it right away in the chat also. You can bookmark this. So all the code which we are going to write it in the future session also will be available in this link only. Okay. If you're not able to copy, you're not able to open also, that's okay. We'll drop an email, don't worry. And here there is a syllabus link I have pasted. Our syllabus for your reference. I will also bookmark my. Okay, done. So here we are actually starting with something called as Linux. So why are we starting with Linux is basically is pretty simple. So the reason is this. So now let's understand this. So our world is actually, we need to host our application in some servers, and that servers is running in Linux OS, and we are actually going to learn Linux. Simple. That's it. So this is a reason that why are we learning Linux in the very starting, or why are we needed Linux, by the way. Right? Does it make sense? Any questions before proceeding? So the process will be same. You will be raising your hand. I'll come to know that you have a question. I'll come to you. All right. I don't see any hands. It's good. So the next is the Linux OS. Now in the Linux OS, by the way, now let's go again Wikipedia. Now list of Linux distributions. If you go for list of Linux distributions from this one, you will see that so huge. If this diagram is not even every line is a operating system, so it's very highly difficult to imagine also how many Linuxes are there in the world. These are all different Linux operating systems. Every line determines a Linux OS. Okay, so according to the timeline when it has been created, in the very recent, there are very few, by the way. You should see very few in the very recent days. So there is one guy who is Rocky Linux, which is came in. Okay, Alma Linux and Rocky Linux. These are the two guys which is coming in. CentOS Stream also, like very few in the very recent days. A lot of projects or a lot of Linux operating systems have been started way long back. By the way, so like a lot of people started it, and I think from interest because Linux is free and things like that, so they wanted to start with their own and things like that. They would have evolved. But if you look at the grouping of those, there's a Slackware as a distribution. Okay, so these are all the sub distributions of it, like Slackware OS. It is free. People will copy that and so make their own OS. The same thing happens to the Debian, and the same thing happens to the Red Hat as well. Okay, so Red Hat, the main company is Red Hat, who actually started the Red Hat OS, Red Hat operating system. A lot of people copy from them. Okay, even enterprise companies copy from that. Okay, so you can see this Oracle Linux also copied from that. So still copying that. Okay, so like this. Who makes the business? These guys makes the business out of it. All right. So like this, a lot of Linux that we know, by the way, is basically a copy of some other guys. So now Red Hat, Debian, and Slackware are the three major vendors. Out of that, okay, Red Hat is the widely used one in the world, by the way. Okay, for enterprise servers. So our goal is always enterprise. So there's always a free version, and the paid versions are basically like so serious business, small business. Our focus is always on the major business only. Okay, so that's where I was trying to tell yesterday. Like my experience is enterprise experience, and that means like deals with the big companies, corporate, right? So there are certain standards in those, and while if you go in there, you will always see that Red Hat as a major one, not the other operating systems. So that is where you will be going with a Red Hat OS. Not only me telling, like internet also you can search for, you will generally get. Okay, so Red Hat versus Debian, which is Debian basically like Ubuntu and all comes is under Debian. Okay, that's where I'm Debian, which is widely used in enterprise companies. So mostly, I think AI result only will give us the result. Okay. In enterprise world, Red Hat Linux is generally more widely used than Debian. Okay. So it's very simple. They have a very good support, and they are proven for enterprise. That's it. Very simple. Okay. So Ubuntu was targeting desktops in the very starting, whereas Red Hat is purely targeting servers from starting. And their base on the customers or the enterprise or the server world is more than the desktop. So that's where the targeted audience, I think, primarily designed for enterprise companies. So suitable for a broad range of users, including developers and all. So this was their target, Debian guys. Okay. So that is the reason. So we mostly go for Red Hat only. So Red Hat is the one that we are going to learn. Going here. So from OS, which Linux OS are going to learn? Red Hat. And Red Hat has something called as RHEL, Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Okay, Red Hat RHEL is what we're going to learn. And again, Red Hat has two versions, by the way. So there is a majorly, RHEL 8 is there. We'll see their official website, and RHEL 9 is there. I think last month or sometime I have seen a news of RHEL 10 also. Let's see. Red Hat versions release. RHL 10 is also released now. Okay, fine. So now RHL released last month, yes. And it's okay. Now here RHL 7 is there, RHL 6 is there, 5 is there. These are all end of supported done, by the way. So 2014 Red Hat release date, but when is the life is expired date is not given. Let me put like support expiry. Hmm. So now you can see this. The current supported versions are Red Hat is supporting 8, 9, and 10 versions. They are, I mean, they always discard the older versions development and they'll move on to the next environments. Almost like each version from RHL 4, if you look in, I've been working with RHL from RHL version 2. I worked on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is now also coming, right? So from at least from RHL 4, if I look in, RHL 2 and 3 lives are very small, but 4, 5, and 6 and 7, almost more than 8 years they will support it. Okay, that standard is there. So now that's where if you look in 2019 to 2029, it's almost now to 10 years, not even 8 years by the way. So they're going for 10 years. So that's where, okay, RHL currently 8.10 version is there. That I think, yeah, if you look at the support, I think 8 years only is correct, a little bit here and there. I think you can see this 4, 3, 6 years is there, something like that. Okay, I don't remember exactly. That's okay. Now 8.10 is released here, and they'll be ending the support by 2029. So that means by 2029, you should be, migrating your servers to the newer version. Now RHL 9 is there until RH 2032. RHL 10 is even, I don't think so. These versions are even released. They're just giving the roadmap. 2025 one version is released. That's it. So they'll have a support till 2035, the major version support, 10 years, right? So this is where, okay, the current versions which is running is 8 and 9. The just released version is 10. So it will take, so some time for people to start adopting that version. Okay, so they are also telling that RHL 10 is some AI-driven operating system. Need to see. That's what they are claiming. I also did not went through detail, by the way. So just released. So RHL 8 and 9 is there. So now we have a choice to pick it up. So at least 8 is getting, in the end of support in few years. 9 is the latest. So we'll just go with the 9. Okay. And doesn't matter basically which OS you are using. Now, like for an example, you go for Windows operating system only. I'm not sure how many of you started using Windows from what time, by the way. So there was different operating systems. Windows 95 was there. At least I from 95 I know it. 97 was there. 2000 was there. 2000 or Millennium ME is there. And after that, XP came in. After that, Windows 7 came. Windows 8 came. Windows 10 came. Windows 11. Now 12 is something which is coming in, right? So like this, different versions of Windows. Now, if you look at the journey, go back, by the way, as well. In between Windows Vista, something came and gone. Okay. So if you look at the, so the OS lifecycle, by the way, okay, you learned one operating system, you'll always be able to manage the next operating system. So what is the difference, by the way? Some features, but the core always remains same. Right click, copy, paste is same. Open the browser, double click is same. Right, that right. So now the core of the things is quite same. Okay. Now what comes in the next versions is always the features. Okay. So that's where going with the latest version, you will see generally the more features than the previous version. But the core always remains same, like I mentioned. Okay. So that's where, so just in the, in the support of, just in the support of these, just in the support of this timeline on the latest things, okay, like timeline in the sense like support timeline and as well as the latest release, RHL 9 is our choice. We'll pick up RHL 9 and we use RHL 9. That's it. Okay, so that is where No, RHEL 9 is the one for our training purpose. Now, also, I wanted to give you a little glimpse on how Red Hat evolved and how some of the commands is quite common between, why some of the commands is quite common between, let's say, Debian OS or, so RHEL, there's ls command, quite common, cat commands. I mean, you'll see that. I think whoever is new, don't worry. So those are quite common. And if you look like, why those are quite common. So because, okay, so how Linux evolved is actually from, it actually started from a community called as GNU. Okay, so there was a community called as GNU, which is started by Richard Stallman. Okay, so GNU community. So this is the first community that we ever know in the communities world. Okay, so GNU community. So the GNU also has been given an animal or picked up an animal name is GNU only. Okay, so but GNU stands for GNU stands for not Unix. Okay, G stands for again GNU. N stands for no Unix, by the way. GNU no Unix. GNU is an animal name. So, which is started by Richard Stallman in 1983. So, he is trying to work on a project with some people around him in the university that he's working on as a professor. So, he wanted to, so break something called as Unix operating system. Okay. So, that means that there was already a Unix. There was prior to that, there's already a Unix boxes. The Unix is basically like, so software plus hardware made by the same vendor is basically a Unix box. Now here my Unix box is Mac OS. My MacBook I'm using right now is a Unix box. So which the hardware and software is made by the same person. And they wanted to break that layer so that, so people can benefit because the software should be running on any hardware is the simple idea of Richard Stallman. So software should be free. It should not be a closed loop, a closed box like Unix, by the way. So everyone develops their own, the ideology of software development or, so there's a lot of duplication code will come into picture. A lot of duplication effort will come into picture. His idea was to, break that, and the reusability was a concept. Now he is going against Unix, by the way, and he was making some utils. Okay. Now, what are the utils? The utils which was there in the Unix operating system, no doubt Unix is a very good operating system. There is no doubt. No one has doubt on that. The only problem is a closed loop is a problem. Okay. And they wanted to break it. So they were developing some utilities. Okay. So some software to run the operating system. But the major software to break the software and hardware was not broken. And who has done that is there is a guy called as Linus Torvalds. Okay. So he actually created something called as Linux. Okay, so Linus Torvalds Linux is there. Linus has created this code, by the way. So then he actually collaborated with GNU, and here the outcome he is developing the utils. He was developing the so the major thing called as kernel. Okay, so he is actually generating the kernel, by the way, and so these guys actually together made one OS which is called as GNU Linux. So little history around this. So he named it as Linux, this one, and he actually trying to break this particular code. He broke the code and he made, broke the code and he has rewritten everything that can run on any hardware. And it is a core kernel, by the way, core of the things. And that they named it as, Linux. And now he is actually making utilities. His community was making utilities. Now this is GNU Linux it has become. Okay. Now that GNU Linux it will be taken by, this is how the Linux OS has been evolved. And that is actually will be taken by Red Hat. Okay, so will be taken by Red Hat, and Red Hat adds something on top of that. Now the same thing will be taken by, so the same thing will be taken by Ubuntu guys also. So Debian also will do the same thing. So they'll copy this one, and on top of that, they'll build their utilities. So that's where the common utilities come from this community, which will develop very long back. And these guys are also cross contributors to that again. So it's all reverse helping also. Like it's not only just consuming. Now a lot of Red Hat, I mean, at least to the Linux, by the way, who is the major contributors to the Linux is these OS vendors only, plus hardware vendors. Okay, now let's say Dell is actually supporting Linux OS. So then they have to come in and support, so certain Linux things from the Dell perspective. Okay, so like let's say Oracle is actually supporting the Linux kernel, by the way, they have to come and so add certain things which is they are needed. The development is collaborative. Okay, it's not like one person. So this is how, okay, so the Red Hat came into picture and the common utilities comes into picture. So that's where some utilities you may see common, and how it is the world is because they all copy from the common core. And that is the reason some common things will work. And the OS specific things like say Red Hat deals with its own administration things. Those are slightly different. Okay, so that is how we'll be going with the Red Hat and RHEL 9 OS in our session, rather than the other operating system. Any questions before proceeding? If you have any question, please do raise your hand.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. Yeah, you said we are going to use Red Hat version 9. So how difficult it is from moving from 8 to 9? Because if folks are using 8 and then we want to migrate to 9, is it like too difficult? Again, the code is same, but there'll be some differences between 8 and 9. And if support is expiring, then something would be coming for the DevOps engineer to migrate from 8 to 9, right?
See, first of all, you need to understand, when you're migrating from 8 to 9, by the way, OS is migrating, that's okay. But but actually on top of OS, what running matters, by the way. Now, for an example, okay, you're running some Oracle database, right? Now that's
Mm-hmm.
where the knowledge of the, so the context should be coming from the database perspective, like, what all the things you need to take care from the 8 to 9 perspective. Okay. So OS is very simple. I mean, you just provision a new machine. That's it, right? You generally upgrade 8 to 9 also. You'll always go with the new servers. Why? Because the hardware of the servers is a limited, by the way. So after 3 years, usually the servers will get decommissioned. So they don't use those servers because the hardware vendor will stop the support. They will not give you any failure if any hardware is a failure and all. They don't support. Okay.
Mm.
So that's where you always end up going to the new servers only. So there won't be generally the migration. The migration of OS won't be there. The migration of application of a database will be there. Now it is always from that particular perspective. So you need to understand that. So so that is where you have to handle it. How difficult? I don't think so. I don't want to do it as a difficult. If it is a difficult, you will not say that I will not work in the organization, right? The work
Yeah.
is given to you. Okay. So there's no point in discussion, which is not possible things, right? So you have to work on
Mm.
it. So now there is a vendor. Okay, now let's say Oracle. Oracle has a vendor. Oracle also will have support. So you will understand. You'll get a support, like what all those things that you need to follow. And you generally will have multiple environments. You'll have test environments. First you'll test it out. Everything is working. Then you'll touch the real systems, right? So there's a long exercise for that. So it's not like just like that mindset, right? It's not just switch immediately. So that is fine. It's okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. So the next is, okay, fine. I wanted to use RHEL 9. Okay, now I have to get an RHEL machine to practice and learn Linux, right? I wanted to learn. So then how can I get this RHL9 box? Okay, there are multiple ways to do that. You can remove your Windows operating system, replace with Red Hat. That is possible. Okay, or else you can do a dual booting of your operating system. That is also possible. Or else you can install some virtual machine software in your Windows and you can create a Linux box and do that. Okay, now these three things you will not do in the organizations. Okay, my point was, if I need to get this Linux box, so there are multiple ways you can get it. So what I can do, okay, install Linux only, install Linux on desktop. Okay, you do this, no problem. You get the Linux. Yes, correct. And the next is dual boot Linux, boot Linux on desktop. Okay, this also you can do. Or else what you can do, install VM software in software and create a virtual machine kind of a thing. You do that. So that is also possible. Okay. So by doing all these means, by the way, you will be able to, okay, you will be able to get the Linux OS, no doubt in that. But do we do all these particular things in the real time? In companies, do you do all these three exercises? No, right? So then why do you need to do this? We don't need this, right? So in organizations, I essentially will not, I know, we consciously know that we don't do this. So then why do I need to worry about this? Right? So companies, we don't do this. Right? In companies, we don't do this approach. So that's where we'll not prefer to go for this. Then what is the alternative you can have here is, you should be having, okay, some standard way how the companies uses. Okay, company uses this in the, directly you have your own data center, right? You can do that. Runs on, okay, so install on server and access the server from remote. So install on, okay, install on server RHL9, you install on a server and access that server from remote, by the way. On which server? Rack server. Okay, in data center, and access the server in remote. So this also I will not go. So this also I'm not going. Okay, so this is also will not go because, okay, so we are learning cloud, by the way. Okay, so since we are in cloud, assume we don't have servers in DC, right? DC means data center. So we don't have servers in the DC. Just assume. I mean, generally corporate companies, they will have servers. Okay, it's not just cloud, by the way. Even though they are in cloud, they'll definitely have some sort of a corporate machines, or sorry, machines for corporate. So data centers will be maintained by their, for them. Generally, it will be there. Okay, so that's where I think maybe in the training we'll not go for that because our company will not have it. Okay, since we are in cloud, assume we don't have in DC. Okay, so but companies may have, companies, okay, mostly will be in hybrid mode. Okay, so that means like you will be having the servers both on both data center, some of the software, and some of the software you may be running in the cloud. So this is fine. Now the last but not least option, so that we'll be thinking about is create a VM in cloud and use it. So this is a very straightforward approach. All right. So this is the one we'll be going for. Create a VM in cloud and we'll use it. So since we are actually going for cloud, okay, we'll be using it. And which cloud we'll be using? So our training, we are actually focusing on AWS. So we'll go with AWS cloud and okay, we will create a VM in the AWS cloud. That's it. So we'll be going for a AWS cloud and create a virtual machine inside a AWS cloud, and we are going to use that particular machine, right? So for this, okay, I require an AWS. Okay, so that means you need to create an account. So in AWS, you're going to create an account and you're going to use that particular account in AWS to create a VM and all. So that means we'll be starting with the AWS cloud. Every one of you need to have a AWS cloud. Okay, we'll start mostly how the companies will do the things. Okay, so that's where we'll directly start with the AWS cloud only. I want every one of you to do the sign up for AWS cloud, and the link which I have given you here, so the GitHub link is also having a AWS how to sign up. You have it. And so what is the sign up link also you have it. So by using this video and this link, you should be able to do the sign up. Now, while you're doing the sign up, you end up entering your some details, by the way, personal details like your payment details that where you have to do the payment from. Every month, end of the month, they'll generate a bill and you have to do a payment. Okay, so that's where you need to go. Okay, that's where you need to provide the card details and all. They don't do the auto deduction. They don't deduct from your account automatically. But however, you need to pay. Whatever you are using, you essentially need to pay. And how much you need to pay? Just let's come some planned number also. So on an average, $20 to $30 will come into picture. Okay, maybe the first month of the training, maybe it is less than that. Okay, but maybe the last month of the training, it is a bit little higher as well. Okay, so just generalizing it, so some $20 to $30 in between per month you have to pay to Amazon. Okay, why? Because we are going to run a big project. If you run small project, resources we consume is also a small thing. Yesterday I was talking about, I was bringing the blips of so how many services, okay, that big companies will be having, like how many microservices does Netflix have? Okay, the answer you are getting is 1,000, right? So how many services that Uber has having? Okay, Uber is telling they are having some now 4,500. They are giving something. Okay, so and the when the screenshot I took, it was some 2,200 something that, right? So now it is increased to 4,500. So microservices they are running for running the Uber. Okay, so like this, okay, is a complex thing that you're having, right? So that means at least you should take an extra mile in the training itself. You should face the difficulty here only. Okay, if I say that so simple project and you happily go and do the simple project very very simply, and you go to an interview or you appear for a you're appear for a task in the company. Okay, it is so complex, by the way, right? So okay, let's digest that complexity from the day one of the training. Okay, while you're learning, so learn it in a better way. So with that philosophy, okay, we're taking an extra mile project. So that means little bigger project in the training itself. And also we are going to go for going for Amazon. So that's where we need to pay that extra learnings, free resources, whatever they offer, it is not enough. So we need to pay an extra to, get the resources. So that's where the cost comes into picture. Okay, so every one of you need to sign up by tomorrow before you come to the session. So just make sure you, you have your AWS account. All right. So that's where, going back here, so you need to create your AWS account. So once you have your AWS account, we'll create a VM and we'll start using that VM. Okay, today I'll just give you an introduction to Linux, very, very basic introduction to the Linux. Okay, I'll not do any deep dive. Okay, so just I wanted to set the things, roadmap for today only. Just set the roadmap for today's things or in today's session for upcoming sessions. Okay, so that's where you need to create AWS account and create a VM. While creating the VM, so we'll tell you, how to get the RHL9 thing and all. So we'll help you with that. Yeah. Any questions before proceeding? So maybe whoever has joined a bit late, I wanted to recall what I have discussed today. So yesterday in the demo session, I was talking about a market is giving the job to us. Which market is giving the job is SDLC, software development market. Inside the software development, so there is a web application. There is a web application, a vertical there where a lot of people actually, working on making the web applications, right? So like there are different developments are also like, so desktop software development is there, software LLM. Now let's say AI related development is coming into picture now. Okay, and hardware development will be there. Okay, like that, different development verticals will be there. Like, so when I say software development, like our hardware development means basically like who develop the software to run your hardware, right? So firmware and all, especially that thing. So in this area, so there's an engineering work which will come into picture. So there are different roles we talked about: engineer, DevSecOps. So this DevSecOps guy is actually going to manage the infrastructure and so manage the application releases and do the security of that application, and everything will be done through automation. And this is all going to be okay. So on servers. End of the day, these all points where the work we have to do is on the servers. And now we need to understand servers, and the servers majorly run with the Linux OS, and Red Hat is a leader in that. So we picked up Red Hat, and inside the Red Hat you have two different versions: RHL8 and RHL9. RHL9 is the latest one, so we'll go with that. And so where I had to install this RHL, so you can use your desktop also, you can do RHL things, but that's not the way that you run in the organizations. So we'll not go in that approach. So companies may have their own servers and install RHL9 and you access it, but here in the training we don't have the DC as well. So that's where we'll strictly stick to the VM, by the way. Okay, so this is how we are going to go for a VM in the cloud. And in order to get a VM in the cloud, every one of you need to sign up for AWS and you need to get an account there. So I will also do a sign up by tomorrow and I'll get my account ready. How to do account sign up? There's a link given here. So this, I'm going to ping it in the chat once again. So we'll also drop this email, drop this link over email after the session to everyone. Okay, cool. So we can go with the some very basics of Linux, by the way. Okay, so Linux OS is generally command line. native command line. Okay. So Linux OS, whatever you are going to learn, is generally the command native command line, natively command line. Let me put that. Natively command line OS. Okay. So that means what to us? Okay. So that means what is we always run commands to manage the OS, by the way. So in graphical interface, Windows is a graphical interface operating system. Okay. Where you deal with the things in a graphical way. Okay. But this is purely command line. Anything you want to do, okay, any operation that we need to do in Linux is preferred to be with commands. Okay, commands. For example, copy a file, we have a command. Create a file, we have a command. Like this. Okay. So copy a file, we have command. Create a file, we have some command. Like that, everything you have a command only. Okay, that's how it is. The next is the next is Linux also supports sorry, not desktop, also supports UI based work also. However, UI requires more software. Okay, UI requires more software, right? UI generally, okay, if you wanted to go with a UI, okay, then what is the thing you have to do? You have to install a lot of softwares. Okay, UI make the machine bulk. That's where you install your Windows, you don't know what is installing, you go to the C drive and find it out. There'll be minimum 10 GB disk space is occupied by the operating system only. The bare minimum only, there's a minimum 10 GB it will consume. Why 10 GB? God should know. Okay, but Linux can start with the 10 MB. Okay, Linux can start with 10 MB of the operating system. With a 10 MB also, Linux can start operating on any of the hardware. Especially in the Raspberries. Okay, a widely used one. I'm not sure anyone heard about this Raspberry Pi. Okay, so this is a simple device, a very small device that can run an operating system. A lot of IoT devices uses Raspberries, by the way. Okay, that means like, so if you, let's say you want to control your home, okay, now you need a computer for that. The basic computer you can use is this one. You can run some code and on this one. Okay, you can make a lot of you can make a lot of what do we say, I can I'm not getting the word. Yeah, I mean, kid playing devices also you can make, by the way, like let's say car and all. You put some software, inside that, and you can be able to make that. Okay, so like this is so much bare one. I know UI they can also run, by the way, but UI requires more software. Okay, now more software, okay, I'll go and install, is not like that actually. More software brings more risk. Okay, more software brings more risk, by the way. You're installing n number of software, and some software has some security bug and gives an opportunity for someone to attack your system. So ideally protection systems, we keep it lean. Okay, very lean. Essentially needed only will install that. Will not just install like that. So we have to be very, so that's where, okay, Linux is natively command line operating system, okay, because it does that way. And we don't go for a UI, though there is a UI option, because of, less software is always the higher, lesser risk, more software is always the more risk. This is the another reason. That means we are going to go and okay, practice everything on the command line. Okay, and how the command line looks like is, I have given one killer code URL, so which can provide some, which can provide a Linux on the command line itself. Sorry, on the browser itself. Okay, so here you'll find out generally killer coda means. If you go to the killer coda main site, you will offer, they will get a lot of courses, by the way. Okay, under community, you will also find ours also somewhere. Sometimes it will come. Yeah, here you're getting popular, under popular. So you will get ours also. So here you have. Okay, so Linux basics, if I click on it, so you will generally able to log in here, and you get a Linux box here only. You don't need to really start with the cloud itself directly. Okay, so just one day, maybe just today, I don't have a box. I still need Linux for you to explain. I can still rely on this guy. So it is doing some work to get you the Linux box. Don't bother about it. In your Windows also, you have command line. So let's say you have ms-dos prompt, dir command, ms-dos. So if you go here and you type dir command, you will find the list of devices in your system by typing a dir command. Okay, dir has an options. All these things are possible in Windows also. From command line, you can do the things. Okay, here you get a command line straightforward. So everything you need to execute some command here. Okay, so some command, you have to type the command name. Okay, so ls. Okay, like this, you should be running the commands. And our next 4 days, we are going to learn a lot of Linux commands. Around 35, it will come. Some 35 commands is the bare minimum commands that you essentially needed. Okay, so you will be going with those particular commands. Okay, so we'll learn those particular commands in the upcoming 4 days of training. So we'll learn those, some 30 plus commands, and we will be able to deal with the Linux. Hey, Linux is a simple operating system. A lot of people actually, made your mind polluted. I usually get this question because I'm just telling without without no one asking. A lot of people made your mindset, in a way that Linux is so difficult. Okay, I'm telling you, you start practicing. You note the date today. Okay, so maybe so June 2025. You revisit the same point on June 2026. Okay, and while this 1 year of your practice on the Linux, I will tell you, Windows is the most difficult operating system. You will feel it also. Graphical is more difficult than command line. Okay, it just made our mind that way. So we are lazily able to go there and drag your mouse and click on it, right click on it, again lazily go there, copy. It's all time waste. Okay, so that's where graphical is so difficult for a professional. For an end user, it doesn't. If you are an end user, like let's say you're just dealing things as an end user, maybe browsing, you're doing watching movie, those all desktop. Yes, agree. But you're not talking about desktop operation. I'm talking about server operations. Like let's say you wanted to perform 1,000 files modification. By the way, for an example, your Windows will cry. Okay, it can't able to manage properly. Linux is a very simple thing. Okay, so like that, your server related, professional related capabilities, once you cross compare, it is very, very easy in Linux. And another thing is, you already know one operating system. Windows, you already know. You're doing copy, you're doing, browsing, or all those particular things. Okay, the same operations you will do in Linux also. Linux is also an operating system. Okay. And how much Linux I have to learn is always another common question that people ask me. How much Windows you know? I always keep this cross question. How much Windows you know? 1% you know? I doubt actually you know 1% Windows also. What do you do in Windows? You're simply using the system only, right? You're not managing anything. You hardly install a software, use the software. What are the options you are changing in the Windows? No, nothing. How many times you are opening registry and modifying the registry, right? You have a Windows registry, right? Regedit file. How many times you are opening the Windows registry and modifying the registry? Now you open the registry, so you end up seeing 10,000 to 20,000, combinations by the way, or entries by the way. So do you know each and every entry of the operating system? No. I think some of you doesn't even know Regedit also. I can bet. Some of you never seen this, but this is the configuration of your Windows, right? How it has to perform it. Okay. So there are a lot of, you open C drive Windows, you'll see hundreds and thousands of files. Do you know each and every file? No. Okay. But what are you doing in your Windows? You're doing your job, by the way, right? So someone also does this job, like, modifying Regedits. Okay. So doing some, file changes, copying some files inside your C drive Windows, some places and all, right? So someone has that job to do, but it's not your job. So you're a user. Okay. Maybe you're a little power user that you can install your software and you can manage your software. Okay. So you can install some services, you can run you're just a little power user, right? That doesn't mean that, you're a champion of everything. So Windows, if you think that, you know everything, I doubt. Linux also, you don't need to know everything, but Linux is also vast on the operating system perspective. You don't need to really know everything, do everything. Okay. You do use an operating system. You use the operating system. That's it. Whatever you need to use, you use it. Okay. You need plus 100 options, you go for 100 options. I'm not stopping you. But you can't go with all the X possibilities that everyone in the world uses, right? It doesn't need it. Or, you end up any command, by the way. So just for an example, this is a very bare minimum OS I have here. If you see the possibilities, 842 commands is coming in, but I'm telling you only 30 commands. Now you go to any matured operating system, like, a better operating system, which is having all these softwares, bare softwares, this is a very bare minimum. At least a decent machine you go with. So you'll find easily 2,000 commands, 3,000 commands you'll see in the operating system. You don't know everything. You don't need to know everything. Okay. The same thing like Windows. Windows also has everything. When we know everything. So here's the commands. We'll know the commands that what, as an engineer, that we actually need to perform. But I'll not put you as a limit that, so that your life ends with that 30 only. No. During the training also, some 10 more commands I'll teach. 10, 15 may come into picture. We'll go and use it whenever the time comes in. But beyond that, when you're actually going through some requirement, okay, so today the data is available to you at the tip of your hands. All you need to do is, what is your requirement? Tell in the search, by the way, you should be able to, and read it, understand it, you learn it. It has to be a continuous process. Okay, Linux especially. So it can't be a, so like a prerequisite kind of a thing, like complete prerequisite. It is a prerequisite, but it's not a 100% prerequisite. So you can always learn while you go on. And what is essentially to start our, training, we'll be going with those particular basic commands in our first week of the training. So that's where the next 4 days is going to be the Linux. You're going to learn some 30 plus commands. And it is easy, trust me, it's very easy. Okay. So don't worry about too much on that. It's all about is remembering. Okay. You have to practice a lot to remember. So Windows UI means, somewhere some information will be told, will be displayed, right? So that's where it may be easy for you to catch it up. But here command line, you have to remember the things. That's the only thing, which is a difference. At least these 30 commands, you should be very by-hearted, those particular things. Yeah. So that's where tomorrow when we actually come in, we'll create a Linux box in cloud and we'll start with the command line. Okay. And we'll start connecting to the servers and we will be start learning the Linux content. Okay. So that's all from my side for today. Any questions? Please go ahead. Or if you don't have any questions also, feel free to drop. I don't have anything technically to discuss. I'll take up some questions. or anyone have questions, I'll take up those. It's feel free to drop as well. So we'll meet in tomorrow's session. Or if you are the first day you're joining today, any other questions you're having also, please feel free to discuss as well. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Raghu, can you show us where the recording is, like where we can find the recording from yesterday's session and then moving forward?
Yesterday, you were able to see that I need to go back and check once how it is being projected. Okay. I will better ask you to check with the organizer once. Okay. I also need to go back and check.
Okay.
But
Because
are you able to
as
watch
you told-
yesterday's? Are you able to watch yesterday's demo video?
No, that's I'm saying. Like I was there yesterday. As you say, like the same link has the recordings.
Just check
I
with the
didn't see
organizer
any.
once.
Yeah, I didn't see the recording. That's why I was just asking. If we need anything, so make sure that the recording is, we know where it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll ask them. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Hi Raghu. Today I joined.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one question, Raghu. Already company having security to maintain any firewall something. So again we are using security here. Any difference?
Securities, there are multiple security teams are there. So there's a network security is there. There's a IT security will be there, or which is IT security can consider. There's an app security, AppSec. Okay, so we're talking about AppSec.
Okay.
And also, like that doesn't mean that company have a security team. So company have the security teams, and that's what I have mentioned in the yesterday's demo session, right? So there are teams, and now that's where the process of DevOps is taking over all those roles. So that's where DevSecOps. You will do that job.
Okay, Raghu. I will go through this demo session.
Yeah. Anyone? Any other questions?
Yeah, hi Raghu. How can we get the access for the Slack and while creating the VM in AWS? We get any doubts how we can contact?
No. Your voice is little noisy background. Can you come again? Little.
Actually, I'm calling. How we will get the access for the Slack? We have a Slack community, right?
Access to which particular one?
Slack.
Slack. Check with the organizer. That's what.
Okay. Thank you.
See, any technical things I can help you with here. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
But I conduct lab sessions, live lab sessions, by the way. So I'll prefer to be there rather than just texting. Yeah, texting is just little wastage of your time. It's all you text one day, I'll reply another day. It doesn't make sense. So we have a live sessions. So maybe tomorrow you'll get the technical things, right? So from tomorrow we'll share you the lab session. Directly join the lab session and clear up your question straightforward, right? So there is no minute waste also for you. So which is better. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, Raghu. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Hello.
You're audible, Shravan.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Hi, Raghu.
I think again I lost you.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
My question is
Now your voice is going away, Shravan.
Is it clear now? I have come here to the system.
The initial words are clear, but slowly it is going faded. Can you be a bit louder and tell your question? Start.
Yeah, my question is about the differences between SRE, platform engineer, and cloud engineer. Where does this DevOps come into picture in between all these three?
All are engineers only. Okay, now placed on the position, by the way, right?
Okay.
So he's more onto the development side. His general role is DevOps engineer role. Now this role actually, so has been kept towards to the production side, dealing with the production releases and maintaining all the production environments. Still same job, same tool, same job, but more towards to the production. He's an SRE guy, and he brought to the platform level. Big companies have platforms. Okay, deals with the wide platform, by the way. So which is a platform engineer. Okay, but your tool and tech stack is same, but your breadth and depth of your role will change, depends upon the role side. So DevOps engineer, if you consider, you may stick to one project, so dealing with its release end to end, by the way, or else, okay, so you may deal till pre-production and you hand it over to the another guy, SRE guy, so which is the SRE guy, by the way. So as a DevOps engineer, your role has been cut down there. And as a DevOps engineer in a company, for all the provisioning of your or for the platform related things, by the way, to maintain all the projects to be common, there should be some engineers also powered more to do this work again. So even as a DevOps engineer, you collaborate with the platform engineer. So these all roles essentially will be there in the bigger organizations when you go for big companies. Now Uber, I'm talking about so we just talked about and seen like 4,000 services you got, right? So essentially you need to bring certain practices in order to maintain it. So platform team will be there. Every project team maintains their own standards. Doesn't make sense. You require a platform team. Okay. So every, now let's say there are 4,000 microservices, so 4,000, but Uber is one platform to the end customer, right? So that means one common team should be responsible for manage, or certain teams should be commonly responsible for that. Okay. So that's where, production engineering SRE will come into picture. And all the individual development side, so you can have a engineer, you can typically call it as a DevOps engineer. But we focus more centric to all the three roles, not only one role. Our training, you can go any direction, by the way. So we'll cover most of the parts. You should be able to.
Thank you, Ravi. That answers.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, all right. So we can meet in tomorrow's session and we can start with the actual things. Okay, thank you very much. Bye. Good day. Good night.